You want to know what's funny? It's that people stare at me when I use my wheelchair, but they also stare at me when I use my cane, my walking stick. They stare at me when I use my crutches, and they stare at me when I use a frame to walk around too. They also stare at me when I cannot move at all. And every time that this happens, I can almost hear what they themselves are thinking. What's wrong with them? They don't look disabled. Are they faking it? But you know what? That cane, that chair, they're my mobility aids, and they're not weakness. They're survival and strength. So to anyone who's watching, welcome back, or welcome in. If you saw my last video, Something Needs to Change, you'll know that I spoke honestly about how FND and disabilities are treated here in the UK, the housing system and the social care system's failures towards people. And today I need to talk about something that's just as important as that, because it's something that I live with every single day. Mobility aids themselves and the stigma that evolves around them. I live with functional neurological disorder, which is FND. It's an unpredictable condition, and some days I can walk, some days I can't. My body doesn't always respond the way that I want it to. So, yes, sometimes I use a mobility aid, sometimes more than others. But no, that doesn't make me weak. The world around me often treats me like it does, or treats us like it does. People stare, they whisper, they question why someone my age needs a walking stick or a wheelchair. And I've been told, you don't look disabled. I've heard people say, do you really need that? And every single time this happens, it feels like I have to defend my own existence and my own way of managing my condition. But the truth is, mobility aids aren't a sign that we've given up. They're a sign that we're fighting back. They would allow me and thousands, and I mean that, thousands of others, to live safely, to live independently, and to keep moving forward despite everything our bodies are put through. When I first started using one, I felt embarrassed, shamed, not because of the aid itself, but because of how people reacted to me using one. I hated the looks, the pity, the quiet judgment, and I realized that the hardest part of using a mobility aid isn't the pain or the fatigue, it's society's attitude towards you and using one. We're made to feel like if you use a stick, a walker, a wheelchair, somehow you have failed. And that's not right. That's wrong. And it's cruel. The truth is that my mobility aid gives me my freedom. It helps me get out of bed. It helps me live safely. And it helps me show up for life, even on those really hard days. But when I take it out in public, people don't see that. They see it as weakness. They see it as something sad. They see a story they've made up in their head. What they don't see is the strength that it takes to leave the house anyway, to push through the pain, to show up when your body says no. That's not weakness, that's power. And here's something that people don't understand about it. Different days call for different tools, different aids. There's no one size fits all when it comes to disability, no mobility aid that fixes everything. Some days I might use a cane or crutches because I can manage shorter distances, but I still need that support. Other days I could use my frame, especially when my balance is extremely unpredictable or my legs feel like they're made of lead. Then there are days when I rely on my manual wheelchair because I simply can't trust my body to stay upright safely, and sometimes my electric wheelchair is the only reason that I can leave my house at all. The one behind me. Each one of those aids has a purpose. They're not a downgrade. They're not a demotion. They're a toolkit. Each one gives me a way to adapt my life and manage to what my body is doing each day. And that's not inconsistency, it's intelligence and survival. Instead of being seen as adaptive, we get judged. People say, well, you were walking yesterday, why are you in a wheelchair today? And that shows how little people really understand about fluctuating symptoms and conditions, especially like FND. Our needs change constantly, and so should the support that we get or we use. There's also this idea that if you look fine, you shouldn't need help, and that if you can walk one day, you should be able to walk every day. And that's not how FND works. That's not how most chronic or neurological conditions were. It changes day to day, sometimes hour to hour, but society doesn't understand or get that. And it's because of a lack of understanding like that that people like me are made to feel like we have to prove our disability and our condition. And it's really exhausting. I'm saying this because there are people out there right now who are way too scared to use the mobility aids that they need to manage. They're pushing themselves past their limits just because they don't want to be judged. And it's heartbreaking. No one should have to do that. Nobody should ever feel ashamed for doing what they need to stay safe and live their life. No one should do that. Mobility aids don't take away our strength, they give us back our independence. They give us back our dignity. People should feel free to use them if they need it. So, to anyone who's watching this who uses one or who's thinking about it, listen closely. You're not weak, you're not broken, and you are not less than. You're adapting, you're surviving, you're doing what your body needs, and that takes courage. Let them stare, let them whisper, because their opinions don't carry your pain, and you deserve to live without that shame. Mobility aids don't make us weak. Society's attitude towards them and us does. And that attitude, it needs to change. Before you click off this video, I do have to say that I want to know something. How many of you watching this live with a disability or chronic illness are there? And maybe do you know someone who does? If you have one or know someone who does, please tap the like button on the video so that I can know how many of us there are. Subscribe to the channel if you want to learn more about my life with FND and invisible disabilities, and leave a comment below sharing a little bit about you. Tell me your story. Tell me about who you are. I don't just want to talk at you. I want to build a space where we can talk with each other. I want to build a space where I know my viewers and I know the sort of things they're into. I want to know who's watching, and I want to know that you know you're not alone. And if you have any questions related to FND or any other invisible or visible disability or chronic illness, please leave those questions in the comments below as well. I ideally would like every single person that watches this video and gets to this point to leave a comment below the video. And that comment being a question that you have or your story, one of the two. And this is because not only is the video helpful to people who come to watch the video, but it also is helpful to see these comments from people and see what people have been going through, or to see what people's conditions are, because coming to a video about FND is meaningful. Seeing comments about how meaningful everything in the video has been is fantastic, and it helps my channel out majorly. One of the things that we need is the meaningfulness of sharing the conditions that people have or the experiences in that way. Even if it's just a case of that you have a chronic illness and are struggling, or you're using mobility aids to manage. That sort of thing makes people who come to watch this video who are going through those experiences not feel alone. I can say you're not alone, and it's true, you're not. But when it comes down to it, seeing those comments, seeing the stuff below the video that says that bridges that gap between what I'm saying and showing it completely. Anyway, thank you to anyone who's watched this video, and if you have any ideas on what you would like me to talk about next, please leave the questions and comments under the channel, under the video. Thank you.